Welcome to Above the Gallery, a podcast focused on conversations with professional creatives. Join us as we casually explore the intersections of wisdom, creativity, and innovation. On today's episode of Above the Gallery, we welcome Emilie Dietrich, President and CEO of Raymar. Today, we have Emilie Dietrich. Thank you for coming today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So today we're talking about Emilie. We're talking about Raymar and Emilie.
Yes.
And so first, let's start with Raymar. I know you're second generation.
Yes.
And I know a little bit about your past, a little bit about what you're doing today. But tell us about how you got into it, what mom or dad created, and just give us some insight.
Sure. So for anyone not familiar with Raymar, we are the creator of fine art panels, different canvases and linens that we import from France and Belgium. So we started literally in the family garage 26 years ago. I was in high school, to date myself. And my mom was always the artist. So she had a career. My parents used to live in Texas. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like a lot of women, unfortunately, she shelved her art career to have kids. Voila. And so I was the youngest of four. And so finally, when all the kids were pretty much out of the house, I was the last one still in high school. My mom says, I think it's time to get back into my art career. So she started taking classes at the Scottsdale Artist School. So this, like I said, 26 years ago.
So you're a native to Arizona.
Yes. So I was born and raised. Like that's a rarity, I think, these days.
It is.
So she started taking classes at the Scottsdale Artist School, comes home, tells my dad, here's the supply list. And on the supply list was to make your own linen panels. And so, you know, my mom's like, God, have I been out of the art world for that long that we now need to make our own supplies? This seems strange. My dad was always the entrepreneur, so his wheels were always turning. And so he looks at the supply list, and it's like, you know, go to the lumber yard, get this certain linen, et cetera,
Was he
et
an
cetera.
engineer?
My dad was always, I would say he was an inventor.
Oh.
So my dad had multiple lives, I would say. Very long story short, he was a former Catholic priest, so that lived in the Amazon jungle. So
That went in a different direction,
yes,
I thought. Yeah.
it did. So he actually built a self-sustaining village in the Amazon jungle, actually built a machine that cracked and sorted Brazil nuts, and they became the largest exporters of Brazil nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was his other life.
Yeah.
And then he always had his own companies. So he had a software development company. They did fleet maintenance for FedEx. He eventually sold that. So he was always looking for the next entrepreneurial thing. That's just who he was. And I definitely get that side from him. And so basically his wheels were turning thinking, you're telling me all these artists are out there making these things by themselves? Okay. So it literally started with me and my dad in the garage. I thought they were crazy, but this was my summer job in high school. So I'm making linen panels with my dad for my mom's classes. And then it became, I think her friends would see them and go, oh, could your husband and family make these for me so I don't have to do it? So it basically was just really word of mouth, grassroots. The name Raymar comes from my grandparents. So it was Raymond and Marion, which is where we came up with the name. And then what was really instrumental was the artist Kevin McPherson, if you're familiar with him.
Sure.
Yeah. So he was one of my mom's instructors. He sees the panels and he even had a 2-page spread in one of his books of how to make your own linen panels.
Wow.
So he sees these and he goes, so you're telling me that I don't have to make them myself too? That's great. So
It allows an artist to be an artist.
Correct.
Right.
So I think one of our main philosophies is, as an artist, focus on what you do best, your art. Invest your time in making your art versus making your supplies.
Sure.
And I see a lot of artists struggle thinking they can save time or they can save a little money by making all their supplies themselves, and they underestimate how long that takes. how frustrating it is, and it's usually not the best quality.
I was going to say, sometimes it's overlooked archival properties.
Correct.
It's a big deal.
Yes. So I talk a lot to different artists about that. And there's been artists that have come up to me, and especially recently, and they go, ooh, I'm now getting my work in the hands of galleries and collectors. I need to step up my panel game. I need to be painting on archival supplies. It is very important.
It is.
But back to Kevin. So basically, he sent out, I remember this beautiful letter to his entire student list, which I think at the time was at least 1,000 names. For us, that was huge. And I think that was kind of the launching point of feeling, okay, so we now have this amazing endorsement by a top artist telling his students, this is what you should use and paint on. So that's kind of how we got our start.
So I don't want to jump the line of timeline, all that, but from Kevin McPherson to who's using them today?
So some of our top artists are Jeremy Lipking, Mark Majori, Michelle Dunaway, Daniel Keyes, Glenn Dean,
Timothy
Rees,
so a whole bunch of them.
Yes, so it's in Brad Kunkel. There's just it's really interesting to me now that all these artists are also my friends.
Right.
So we have this incredible caliber of artists using our products, and then they're texting me.
You use a term for these artists that are using Raymar panels through whatever relationship you create. You call them a
Raymar champion. So I think there's a lot of ambassadors out there. You know, a lot of companies have their ambassadors. But my mom and I came up with the term champion because I think it kind of goes both ways. When you're like a champion for a cause, you like truly believe in it. And then we believe that all the artists are champions in their own right.
Sure.
So they have reached a certain level in their art career that they are worthy of being called an art champion.
Yeah, I like
that.
Yeah. And so today, we talked a little bit about Raymar in the past, how it was created. Today, what is Raymar doing? Meaning, where do you send support or ground or whatever?
So
what's your reach? How about that?
What's our reach? You know, it's funny. We have probably about 20,000, 25,000 artists in our customer base that buy from us. We pride ourselves on working direct with artists, though. So you're really not going to find Raymar in giant chain art supply stores. We would much rather work one-on-one with artists, and we find that the most important thing is having a direct relationship with the artist that we work with. So I think there's a lot of products out there.
It's got to be very hard in the retail environment today, though.
It is, and I think it's changed dramatically.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, when we started the business in 1998, we actually went direct to artists in the beginning. So my parents kind of did it backwards. So I think most people get started.
Fortunately.
Yes. So it was actually a lucky thing. You know, I at the time thought they were crazy because we had UPS picking up at our house. You know, I'd come home, we'd be making packages in the living room, and then UPS would pick up in the afternoon. That's really how we got started. And you know, at the time when most people would say, I want to get my product in a chain retail store, my parents didn't do that. And by doing that, I think we had this direct one-on-one feedback of what do artists need, what's missing in the marketplace, what would you like to see us make, which is actually how we created our wet painting carriers. That came out of conversations with artists, like what is missing in the marketplace.
So you're agile enough to fill some of those blind spots.
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think when you go the major retail, and you know, all companies do it the way that they think is best for them. So for us, I think what we really pride ourselves on is that my mom and I, we're truly artists. So it's like a different language I think you speak when you know an artist is speaking to another artist.
Yeah, sure.
Not just speaking to a business person selling a product. You know, so we are making something that we know has a personal hand in the creation of their artwork. And I think that gives us the warm and fuzzies of.
Are you an artist?
I am. So I would say I'm obviously not to the caliber of the artists that I deal with, but I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't an artist. So I realized, though, to truly be an artist of today and to make it in this art world, you must be in your studio painting 8 hours a day. And you need to treat it like a true job that you're painting that many hours in a day.
Yeah, I get at, as a gallery, which is a completely different exercise as Raymar or an artist. But everybody, and it'll happen today, do you paint?
Right. Oh, of course, everyone asks.
Yeah, and then the fun, simple answer is no.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, and I've tried it. In the early 2000s, it's hard not to. When you're motivated or you're inspired by so much good work, you're going to want to get into that world a little bit. And it's the most defeating exercise I have ever experienced.
I've tried my hand many times.
Yeah. And so, so I'm not an artist, but and that actually helps in the business world, right? Sometimes you do need a different perspective. I think the gallery business has changed so much in the last 10 years that, and I don't know about Raymar, I think exposure is almost everything, but there still has to be an experience level. Now, maybe not with Raymar, but in the gallery business, it'll never go away. It'll definitely change, but you have to experience artwork, right?
Correct.
And so, thankfully, brick and mortars are safe in the,
I
in the art
think
space.
they're still here to stay. And I think as I use the word artist sometimes as a way of thinking. So maybe you're not painting or drawing,
I call them creatives.
Yes. So you're a true creative. It's a philosophy of living, of how you think, and I think how you approach and see the world. That's
and usually
how I
it
view
comes
artists.
off to the outside world. So
Yes.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
How about the future? Where's Raymar going? Or where would you like it to go? How about that?
So what has started to develop in having all these great relationships with artists? I started it maybe a year or two ago, so it's still kind of small. It's evolving, but I opened the Raymar Studio. So the Raymar Studio we've done some small art workshops. We're doing curated art events.
Demos.
Correct. So a couple years ago, the first one that we did was we brought in Matt Ryder, who's a British artist who lives in Dubai, and it was his very first workshop in America. And I remember he reached out to me and he's like, I know you don't really know me. He's a good customer, but he's like, I know you don't know me personally, so you're kind of taking a chance on if I could fill a workshop for you. And I said, I've never hosted a workshop, but I've attended many. Let's do it.
So what's the model of that? For instance, Scottsdale Artist School, right? We know what the
Right.
model of that. That's, for those of you who don't know it, that is an institution right down the street from this gallery. And they have artists come from around the country, around the world, and then people pay and fly in to sit with them for a week. Right?
So similar, but what we found is there was a lot of artists saying to us, and like I said, we love the Scottsdale Artist School, so we almost kind of partner with them on certain things. We found there are a lot of people out there that say, I can't take 5 days off work to do a workshop, but I could come in town for a 2-day weekend workshop. So that's what we did.
Oh, that's
smart. We hosted an evening demo on Friday night, and then we had a 2-day workshop over the weekend, and that enabled us to get people from California, New Mexico, Arizona, who said, I could take maybe a Friday off work and come in for the 2-day workshop. It was less of a time commitment, I think.
Yeah, and that's important today because it gets pretty hectic out there. Does Raymar Studio have its own entity in social media world?
Not yet. So I think that is what I'm building up now. So we kind of ran those couple workshops as a test to see is our customer base interested in this? Is this a viable thing that people are actually asking for?
Are you doing it at Raymar?
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually, so we took over an additional space. We now have it's almost 7,000 square feet. It's about 6,800 square feet of warehouse and office space. And there's kind of a big front area where we have room for a studio. We also, when we hosted our evening demo, we cleared out part of the warehouse because that's what we find that a lot of artists come and it's like kids in a candy store.
Yeah, sure.
It's like seeing the back room of where the magic is made. I think people feel that way when they're there. And there's just a lot of love and care that you can feel that's been put into our products, so people want to see and feel that. Eventually, I would like to break that out as a separate entity, and we have our own beautiful space that almost would have a kind of gallery storefront-esque to showcase some of the work of that artist coming in town doing that workshop.
Yeah, sure. So the experience of that is really important, right?
Yes.
And so I haven't been to the warehouse.
Oh, yeah. You got to come.
I will. But I do think, because we've talked about this a lot, and we should have probably prefaced that you and I are involved together with Scottsdale Art Week here in Arizona, and we've done some traveling in New York and Santa Fe with the team. And we've talked a little bit about this, but the experience of either Raymar or your demos, the environment and how you create it. In the gallery, this is irrelevant, but I love saying it. We try to get as many senses. I don't know when you walked through the door, what was the first thing you experienced? And it should have been a smell.
Yeah, that's true. There's.
And if you say it's a bad smell, then let's just move on. No, I'm kidding. It's actually what you put in the AC vents, right? And,
yeah.
And it's supposed to. Maybe it's not running today. I don't know.
No.
Judging by your reaction, I don't think it was. But usually there's a fragrance, and then obviously the gallery is visually
right.
That's an experience, right or wrong. It's still an experience, and then tactile. I don't know if you can touch very much in the gallery, but I will tell you that just in that thought process of senses, when you walked on our carpet, it's a different. Go walk the gallery.
Right.
It's different.
That is true.
I don't know if it's better. But
it's different, and you remember it. You do remember things that are different.
It's 8 years old, that floor, and every month, not week, but month, somebody says, "Oh, I like your new carpet."
You're kidding.
It is not new. It's just cushion. Anyways, but that sounds fun.
It is.
I think you should be in the gallery space. I really do. I think it's kind of
I think what I'm finding, so I have so many artists that I think just, like I said, I love their artwork. They're great customer buying.
Right.
I support them. I think that's the other thing of me and my mom is that we love art ourselves. So we're collectors ourselves. We're a supporter of the arts. So it kind of just goes hand in hand of wanting to elevate the artist.
Yeah, sure. So throughout what you do, have you ever had the opportunity to buy and sell artwork in general?
Yes and no. Yes, because I usually get the opportunity of some first dibs on paintings, and then we snatch them up as best we can.
And so that hasn't set a hook in you?
I think it has, much more recently. So,
really?
Yeah. So what has started happening, so like I said, we've been in business for 26 years. And just a year ago, my mom officially retired. So it hasn't been broadcast news, but it's kind of been hush-hush. And now she's actually ready to share that, okay, I'm actually not coming into the office anymore. And since that transition, it's kind of been what's the new energy of we've gone from family business, basically husband and wife, me on the side. And then when my father passed away in 2007, it was mother-daughter. And I realized with my mom, I go, we've been mother-daughter longer than it was you and my dad.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was interesting to realize. So we started in 98. My father passed away in 2007. And so then I was living in Chicago at the time. And
that's a whole nother
that's a
conversation.
Good, long meandering path. But basically, so then pretty much in 2007 is when I flew back here, looked at the business, and I realized my mom needed help and she needed a business partner. And so then I didn't live in Phoenix the whole time, but I would fly back and forth. So I always had my hand in the business with our staff. And then it was last year when she officially retired. And I think since then it's like, okay, so now who is Raymar? What does Raymar look like entering this 26 year? She's grown up.
Sure.
And I've actually been working with my staff and said, we need to pick out art that now resonates with all of us here. So I've actually been giving my staff opportunities when a painting comes up to say, like, if we can get this, we're getting it. So it's kind of
to do what with?
So basically I'm building a gallery so I know you're scratching at the gallery. I know, it's always there. So I think I'm kind of curating some artwork that I want to see in our Raymar space, and then that'll eventually lead to probably, like I said, another additional space at some point.
And where's the ideal space to be had?
I don't know. I think
for those that don't know you, you're very well traveled.
Yes, that is true.
You've been in a lot of markets, New York, Chicago. I won't go Europe because that's, again, another podcast. You don't know what your ideal market is for a retail space in that?
In Arizona or just in general?
That's the question.
Oh, that is a good question.
Yeah, like Santa Fe, Arizona.
I have to say our recent trip to Santa Fe, I hadn't been there in a long time, and I had some fresh eyes being in Santa Fe.
The energy was great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town. I loved the walkability of that. I think we're starting to see that and feel that a little bit more now in Scottsdale. I would say years ago, though, Phoenix and Scottsdale was not a walkable city.
No, being on Main Street for 25 years and having some sort of 1 foot at least in commercial real estate, I actually think our best days are in front of us for Main Street and for a variety of reasons. But we have art walks every Thursday, and for a while we used to say it's our longest running art walk in the country. I think it was started in '71. That's a guess. I don't know. Smarter people probably know. But the street was Marshall and Main Street. Marshall was always modern and contemporary. Main Street was historical and traditional, right? Cowboys and Indians or Southwest. And this is in the early 90s. It became very diverse because of entities wanting to take advantage of the exposure for their artists. And then that had changed, and then '08, and then we had a vacuum, and the opposite happened, and then a little bit more people came in, and I think Altamira, and a few other galleries, and then COVID, it kind of did the reverse. But we have Museum Square. If you go out our front door, you can see the museum that they built. They're building Museum Square development, which first phase, which is an 8-story hotel, it's already been completed. Second stage is condos. Third stage is a 12-story, we think, a St. Regis hotel.
Really?
Right here.
Interesting.
Therefore, what is the point of brick and mortar? It's to increase foot traffic so you can grow a business for a retail establishment. So, having said all that, I think that's going to help. The biggest thing that will help this market is something you and I are involved in.
Yes.
Scottsdale Art Week.
Which is huge.
It is huge. And the reason why I think that's going to help is because I think more people are going to be exposed to the market, the thirst for cultural things, art, things of that nature. So a lot of things, again, there's too much to cover there. But for Arizona, Scottsdale, I'm always been bullish. I always thought, you have to be, if you're an advocate for your business, you have to be an advocate for your street, your city, and your state. You have to.
Yeah.
And I'm always bullish on our street and our state. Santa Fe was interesting for me.
Yeah.
There was I think there's 200 galleries there.
Is there? It's wild.
Yeah. But Canyon in particular, aesthetically, I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was.
And if you step back, there's not a lot of window shopping. You actually have to go through the structure to experience it, which might be a good thing.
I think it forces people to come inside. It draws you in. So
it's a long walk, though.
That is true.
Up and down.
So.
Okay, so Raymar. No, let's pull off Raymar. Emilie.
Yes.
Tell us something about you personally that is not connected to, which is tough because
that's hard.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think I've become one and the same.
Which is good and bad.
It can be good and bad. It's interesting that for a long time people thought my last name was Raymar. You included. I showed up to events and my name on the chair said Emilie Raymar. And I had to tell people that's not actually my last name. It's Dietrich. I think some of the other kind of loves of mine that I get into is writing and travel. When you really identify as an artist and creative, you realize the creative life lends itself to all these, I don't know, outside of the box kind of thinking of how you can live.
Or a comfortable space to express yourself, whatever the medium is.
Yes.
And that's really important.
It is interesting to me because I always dance in two different camps as an entrepreneur and as an artist thinker. So, and like I said, I really got that entrepreneur side from my dad. I think I was an entrepreneur from the start. My mom always tells me, I remember growing up and I think when kids are making a lemonade stand, I made a shoe store. I was 4 years old and I still remember it. I went through the whole house and I stole shoes and socks and things from everybody's closets and I put price tags on them. I made a grand opening sign and I was 4. She goes,
did you sell anything?
No, not really. But
market wasn't ready.
Market was not ready. Yeah. But I think that instilled in me this ooh, this is fun. I liked it. And I remember my mom always said, I think my father, when he was 5, was collecting glass bottles for nickels and dimes in the Depression. That was what he did. So she's like, you have your father in you when you do that stuff. And then the artist side, like I said, really comes from her. I think the other part of me that I know needs an outlet at some point is writing. So it's been...
So does your writing need an audience?
It hasn't for a long time. And then, it's funny, just recently I had a good artist customer made a comment on like an old Instagram post of something I had written. And she said, "You have a gift with writing. You need to share this more." And I've had multiple people that I know, some really top artists that have said that to me. And to me, it's just always something I've kept to myself or musing. So I write every morning. There is a book that was actually instrumental in the creation of Raymar. It's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. If anyone knows that, it's a great book. And she talks about you need to write 3 pages every day. She calls them your morning pages. And it is just like brain dumping, whatever that may be. But I always find that once you've written 3 pages, then it gets into like a different dialogue. Or when I travel, because like I said, I love to travel, I could be in a restaurant and write 20 pages.
Is environment critical for you to get in that zone?
So in the morning, always it's like a cappuccino and writing. I have my staff knows I come in a little later to the office because that's my like me creative time. If I don't do it, it never happens at the end of the day. And then I recognize that when I travel, it's almost like you're with this other entity when you're writing. And I pick up on dialogue, and I've written storylines, and I'll go through like 2 pens. It's crazy. So I realize I have boxes of journals and just writings, and that now needs to get put in like the context of either a book or something. So.
Do you ever dive in as a reader and go back through your own journals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes, and I'll read it and I go, wow, this is an incredible story. Yeah. And I was like, wait, I was part of that story.
You wrote the story.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually met some writers on airplanes before, and I've just shared stories of mine. Yeah. So this was a trip in South Africa. She was a script writer, movie editor, and I just shared all these different stories from my life. And she goes, "You have so many stories to tell. You need to tell them."
Either that or have a podcast.
Right.
One
So
of the two.
that's probably it too. So, because I think, but that's just life, the exchange of stories. I mean, that's what humans need to do.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Raymar Foundation. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So this is something in the works. I would say the overall mission always for Raymar, probably not when my parents started it, but when I stepped in, is that I knew I wanted to build a company to get to the point to be able to really give back to the art community. And one of the reasons that it means so much to me is that when I was in high school, I did not pursue an artistic career because my parents didn't have enough money at the time. So it was an interesting period of time where, in the first couple years of the business, I was then eventually a senior in high school. My parents didn't have enough money for my high school tuition, so I took on 2 jobs to help pay for it. And that was at the pivotal time when you're considering, can I pursue an art career? Could I not? And I just didn't see if it was feasible.
So this was private school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had the option of transferring to the public school, but I figured I'd worked so hard, 3 years at a private school, and then to transfer to a public school my senior year. I didn't want to do it. So I worked in the school cafeteria, and I took on 2 jobs as well. So I'm tough cookie, hard worker.
Good.
And I think that always somewhere in me, like stuck in there, obviously. And I thought if I could get to a position one day and help the next generation when they're considering, could I become an artist and be able to donate or give scholarships to students in that pivotal time when they're considering, could I become an artist? Yeah. So the Raymar Foundation, as I'm developing it, is I want to get to a point where a certain amount of our proceeds from every panel that we sell would go to the Raymar Foundation, and then we would fund art scholarships throughout the country.
How do you find those in need? Right.
Right. So that's a whole other kind of thing that I have to figure out.
Yeah.
But I just recognize that we already have some scholarships that we've done. So we actually have a memorial award for my father with the Oil Painters of America. So it's the John August Dietrich Figurative Memorial Award. It's a mouthful. So we give $1,000 every year to an artist for that award. We'll do some scholarships with the Scottsdale Art School. So I'm just realizing, as we've been always kind of doing this, I realize how can we do that in, I don't want to say a grander way, a bigger way, but be able to touch more.
Sure. And do you already have the 501c3?
No, so I'm setting that up. So, and I think I also got part of the idea of being on the ArtLink board. So a year ago, I got invited to be on the ArtLink board, which is a 501c3 here in Phoenix. And I think that's when my wheels started turning of there's this incredible art community here. And how did they get their funding?
Right.
So one of the people, I think that being based in Phoenix, Arizona, that I would one day aspire to be is the legacy of Virginia Piper.
Sure.
So the other, and I wouldn't keep it just to painting. So for me, I love all creative mediums. I grew up doing ballet. I grew up playing piano. I love to cook. So it's like all those different artist realms.
Sure.
Everyone needs help.
Yeah.
Everyone needs. I actually remember that this is when my wheels started turning. I am one of the judges for the Beautiful Bazaar Art Prize. So it's a big art competition. I forget what year it is at this point, but I've been a judge for the past, I think, 4 years. And we sponsor the Raymar traditional art category. So the top prize in that category is $5,000. And then we have 3 awards and an honorable mention that I always pick.
Wow.
2 years ago, and I can't remember the artist's name at the top of my head, but as we're talking, she comes up to me after the award ceremony and she had tears in her eyes. And she tells me that because of that award money, she was able to leave an abusive relationship and get her own apartment and keep her daughter. And I was like, oh my God.
That would have sent me over.
Yeah. And I just thought, in the grand scheme of things, that was not a lot of money. And that...
For you.
Right.
Right.
And how much that impacted her life and just the feeling I got, I was like, I want to do more of that. That filled me up.
It filled your tank, yeah.
It did. And I think that's what, in terms of companies, really sets Raymar apart in the art materials world. That I think we just genuinely care about artists personally. So, and that's something that comes through, I think, when we send our product out, just in our verbiage and our mission, that there's a bigger picture behind the scenes, not just selling product.
That's an important point to convey.
Yes.
And it's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one.
It's a difficult one. Because there is a business involved, and you do have to keep the lights on.
Correct.
You have to be productive.
You do.
But you also have to really focus on what your true intentions are.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough business entities focus on that. And
I don't think so.
Maybe because it's easier not to. I don't.
Right.
You mentioned something, Raymar Panel's traditional award.
Yes.
So are the users of most of your supplies, and tell us what Raymar really offers. Is it just panels?
It's mostly panels.
That's what I assume.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
So, and on all different substrates. So it's either hardboard, aluminum. We do an archival gator foam, but it's mostly all panel. Therethere's enough companies making stretch canvases out there. It's actually more archival to paint on a rigid surface, a panel. So years ago, when this all started, my parents dealt with. I think it was Ross Merrill, who worked at the National Gallery. He was one of the conservators there.
Sure.
And he said one of the first things you do when you restore a painting, you take it off the stretcher frame.
Restretch it, yeah.
And put it on a rigid surface, and you put it on a panel. So that was always the thought of, well, why don't you start there first? So we do have artists asking for stretch canvas, but...
You don't touch any of it.
We just don't do that.
Really?
So we do offer rolls of linen. So that's another thing we do now. So I work with 2 factories directly, one in Belgium and one in the south of France. So we import everything.
Belgian linen.
It's beautiful
thing.
Belgian linen, yeah. And so then the other factory in the south of France, it is hand primed. So this is our creme de la creme linen.
Right.
And that's what Jeremy Lipking, Mark Majori, all those artists, that's their favorite.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And is that it?
Pretty
Meaning
much,
panels?
yeah. So we do panels, and then the other thing we do is these wet painting carrying cases, which are lifesavers
For plein air?
Yeah. So not just plein air. So it's really interesting. So the plein air world, I think.
They are a different breed, by the way.
They are a different breed. So I would say being a plein air artist is very different from being a studio artist or a portrait painter. And you feel the difference. You know, I think sometimes plein air artists are like adventurous and camping and love the outdoors.
Right.
And then you have the artists that would much rather be in their studio all day. But what we find is that we deal with a lot of artists. Artists love to travel. So where do they get their inspiration? They go to Europe. And always what happens is, how do I get my painting home? So they paint this beautiful painting and it's wet. And then what? So that was my mom's brainchild years ago. And it was, what did people do? They put in a pizza box. It was like a pizza box in the back of your car or just some cardboard something. So we have a patented design of...
Give the design.
Yeah, exactly. Secret stuff that happens inside our office. Actually, that is one thing maybe some people don't know. We make everything in-house.
It's important.
Yeah. So all our materials, wherever we bring them in from, you know, a lot of our European materials, but everything is made in-house. And a lot of people don't know that we are female-owned and all female-operated.
It's been sitting there for 5 minutes.
My whole staff is female. Not that I discriminate.
Sure.
And I did have a few men, but they didn't really last. And I just think the women I have, there is such care and attention to detail for everything we make and put out. So we really are just a tight-knit family.
A U.S.-made, woman-owned, privately owned business for the art community.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's switch gears here for a minute and let's tell everybody what we have in common. I met you about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, thereabout.
It feels longer, but yeah, I feel like I've known you.
A lot of road has been covered since then. You and I are both tied to Scottsdale Art Week, which is an art fair. Our inaugural fair is March 20th. Scottsdale Art Week is a fair like Art Basel, 120 exhibitors coming from around the world, from Turkey, Japan, New York, LA, and everything in between. We have carved out a small little space, small as relative, in a 120,000 square foot building, but we are having an Arizona Invitational that ArtLink is creating the call to artists, and we anticipate 20 to 30,000 people walking through that building. And so as a gallery owner and a building owner, we can't offer that to our stable of artists or even our shows. And so just the exposure rate to me makes my head melt. I don't understand it. It's a wonderful exercise. So very excited about that. We've traveled to New York for Southampton show.
Yes.
That we had a meet and greet with all the exhibitors, 153 I believe it was. We had 75 people at our meet and greet.
Yeah, it was very successful. It was good.
It was a lot of fun. It was hot.
Yes, the Hamptons are sticky.
It is sticky. And a lot of those buildings do not have AC.
No.
Fortunately, ours did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were just in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Where we did another meet and greet. Joshua Rose, who was helping our cause for Scottsdale Art Week, he set up a meet and greet at Neptune's.
Correct. Yeah.
And we had 60 or 70 people show.
Good turnout. Yeah.
Fun. I don't know what to do as far as a podcast in Scottsdale Art Week, but I know we have one with American Art Collective that we have to go do.
Yes, we do.
I say have to. We're looking forward to it. Just, for people that are unfamiliar with what we're talking about, we brought in Michael Plummer, who founded TFAF in 2016. He sold it, his portion, in 2019. And for those of you that don't know the TFAF Art Fair, that is the most elevated art fair in the country. Yeah. And we literally searched for the biggest, baddest individual to help push this.
We have a rock star team.
We really do.
It's amazing.
We also have Ben Ginocchio, former New York Times art critic and Armory director. And then locally we have yourself, we have me, Logan Browning, Jason Rose, and Jason is another. I could spend 2 hours on just the stuff he's involved with.
Yeah.
But yeah, very fortunate that we're all
good team.
Part of this. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the more and more that we speak in front of people, because we're starting to find that's becoming more and more common. Just watching everybody speak that's on the team to others that we're talking to. For me, that's very interesting. It's nourishing.
It is.
Because we're galvanizing. Right?
What I feel is, especially after we spoke last night at ArtLink, I think you can just feel the energy, like our own enthusiasm for it, of, this little idea that you had, which was not so little, that has now grown into this thing. And I think we're picking up on the energy that people are feeling from us.
Right.
And kind of one of the things I touched on last night is that I have lived in all these other places, like some of the biggest art meccas in our country and the world, from, New York, London, Paris, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and to now be creating an art event of that caliber here in Scottsdale is amazing. So that makes me, like, personally just very excited for what our state is and our city here.
Yeah, it's amazing it hasn't already.
I know. I'm really shocked.
The way that we're doing it, at least.
Correct.
Right. Since you are involved with some of the most talented artists in the country, you get to see some of the most prestigious institutions in the world. What are you drawn to in regards to the art world, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, fine art?
I deal with so many artists. But, in, I think, the world of Raymar, it's definitely kind of a box. We deal with high-end representational artists. I'm definitely drawn to the Jeremy Lipking aesthetic of all his paintings. I've been lucky enough also to be on both sides of the canvas, where I've actually sat for portraits, as well as wanting to acquire them. So some of my favorite artists, actually, Brad Kunkel, if you're familiar with his work, I truly love his work. I love Jeremy's work. There's probably like my top two that I just want to collect. And then the interesting thing is there is like a hint of modern abstract art that I'm drawn to. It is a very different world than Raymar panels that I'm in. I think the medium I'm getting into a lot lately, just personally myself, photography.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think I caught that bug when I was traveling in Africa.
Yeah, I can see that. Is it David Yarrow?
Yeah.
You see a lot of Yarrow. You see him right across the street here.
Correct.
You see him.
But I think when you're sitting kind of in that stillness, and I think that's when I realized, ooh, this is what photographers have. They have the patience to wait for that perfect scene. And I think back in the day, when you were shooting with real film, I think you were more deliberate about the photo that you were taking. I think nowadays you have your iPhone and you're snapping pictures like crazy, and you may not take that time to craft what is the story that you're looking at. And so what I realized is when I think being there, I go, I love telling stories. That's from my writing to then, and that's what painting is as well. Like, what is the scene that you're creating, and what is the feeling and emotion that you want to convey? And that's what art is to me. So you have to feel something.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who want to come, or they're scared to come to galleries with me because they go, oh, I don't know anything about art. And I said, do you know how to feel?
Yeah.
You know something about
it. We get that a lot in the gallery.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, you look at our tourism patterns for the last 25 years, used to be 70% Midwestern, right?
Really?
And so you always had somebody that worked really hard, and if they were successful, they'd come in and they'd want to go experience. But they would usually, and this is a hasty generalization, they would always preface whatever question they have, look, I don't know anything.
Right.
I said, then you're in a better shape than most because you know that, and just go experience it. Right? Yeah. The value of artwork sometimes has nothing to do with who they are, what the price structure is. It's about what you pull from your experience. I love traditional subject for a variety of reasons. Primarily because it's more difficult to paint.
Yeah. One thing I always remember, Casey Baugh, if you know him, the artist, he always said, I equate, like, do you like a painting? Equate it to a meal. Like, someone doesn't need to tell you when you take a bite of this meal, do you like it?
That's a wonderful analogy. It is.
Because a lot of people, there's so much heady stuff, and I don't know the background or the history and all that and the genre. No. You take a bite, did you like it? You see this painting, did you feel something? Did it move you? Do you like it? Do you want to take it home? Yeah, it's a good piece of art for you.
Yeah.
So
that's a good analogy. I like it. I might steal it, but
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course. Yeah.
And where can people see Emilie, Dietrich, and Raymar?
So on Instagram, we're Raymar Panels.
Okay.
And then if you want to follow me directly as well, it's just my full name, Emilie C. Dietrich.
Emilie C. Dietrich. Okay, how about Raymar, the company?
So we're Raymar.com.
Okay.
Very easy. And like I said, Instagram, Raymar Panels.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right.
This was a pleasure. Thank you,
Good.
Trey.
Thank you for joining us on ATG. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe on our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok channels.